There is a line in a poem by Robert Frost that reads, "I judged a single leaf unfurling had more to say than I." So too with this floral composition. Every leaf, flower, and even stem has an importance all its own. Here, cut coniferous evergreens are used as a holder. Whenever it is possible to use them, evergreens make an especially good holder. With all their branches laid one on top of the other, the sprigs of evergreen are packed endwise into the container. The flower stems can go easily amongst them and are firmly held in place. If it is not possible to obtain this type of evergreen, flat bundles of fern from the florist can be cut to size and used in the same way. Ferns have only one disadvantage. They soon deteriorate in water, whereas evergreens can be rinsed off in running water and used several times. With this type of holder, you can easily pull the flower stem out again if you're not satisfied with its position, and try another, without disturbing the whole arrangement. The long-stemmed Darwin tulips are placed in position first on the left side of the container, framed by their own clear-cut foliage. This is an example of an asymmetrically balanced arrangement. And foliage are so arranged that the apparent weight on one side of an imaginary center line will balance that on the other, even though the two sides are entirely different. This balance, which is after all only a matter of apparent weight, can be accomplished in several ways. By placing darker flowers at the focal point or center of interest, because darker colors always seem heavier, or if all the flowers are the same color, a few larger flowers, or those of a different form, will give emphasis to the arrangement. This type of arrangement is in direct contrast to a symmetrical one, in which both sides of an imaginary center line are exactly alike, and is certainly much more pleasing and interesting. The parrot tulips are placed low on the right to balance the height on the left. This combination of Darwin and parrot tulips is interesting in this heavy pewter jar, and the colors of the two varieties of tulips harmonize well with the soft gray of the container. An interesting old Chinese pewter canister is used here as a container for a striking arrangement of geraniums. The geraniums are held straight and proud by use of chicken wire as a holder. Do not use too much wire, just enough to roll lightly and wedge into the neck of the container. Evergreen could be used here, but because of the shape of the canister, with its narrow neck, evergreen would be somewhat difficult to pack in. When you cut your flowers, cut at least 3 sprays with good long stems. Then the shorter stem geraniums can be worked in between. some of the leaves will have to be pruned out in order to show the arrangement to its best advantage. For each flower, stem, and leaf should show to full value. Geranium foliage is so beautiful, of such lovely color and form, that it is entirely adequate in itself and needs no other foliage to complement it. It is sufficient frame for its own bold, flaming flowers. The geranium is a cheerful, friendly flower and gives color and life to any room where it is used, provided it is in harmony with its surroundings. It obviously would not be suitable in a formal drawing room or in ultra-modern surroundings. And it is equally obvious that geraniums should not be placed in an elaborate or handsome container. They look best when arranged in pottery, especially black or white, in old gray and blue ginger jars, in American pewter, or hand-wrought Syrian copper with its color so flattering to flowers. The flowers in this glass cornucopia, or horn of plenty, are arranged in what in flower show language is called a freestanding arrangement. This is in contrast to one that is meant to be shown against a background. An arrangement that is equally interesting from all sides is said to be freestanding. This does not mean that the arrangement must be the same from every point of view, but rather that it must be so planned that it is equally attractive from all sides. No holder is used, as the shape of the container, with its very narrow base, provides support. The flowers are pale blue lupins with their beautiful curving stems. Then come pale pink begonias with dark leaves. Notice that the flowers of each kind are placed together, not in a stilted manner, but blending into each other. Next, the dark purple and bright red anemones with their dramatic black centers. The cluster of bright red begonia leaves adds a distinctive note as they point down to the long glass foot of the container. This arrangement of fine, delicate flowers would be suitable for a luncheon or informal dinner table. It is low enough so that it does not interfere with conversation. It would also look well on any low table large enough to carry it. A coffee table, for example. This is a formal arrangement in a very beautiful dark blue crown derby vase. The flowers are snapdragons, roses, stock, and fuchsia. Again, cut evergreens are used as a holder. The arrangement is begun by putting in the tallest pale pink snapdragons first. The lower leaves of the snapdragon are stripped from the stems, so that the flowers may be inserted easily, without disarranging those already in place. When placing the snapdragons, note the lovely curve of the tips, and be sure that those on the right side all follow in the same direction. Once again, we see the fitness of placing flowers of the same color together in an arrangement. In this way, the colors build a pattern instead of confusion. A vase is to a flower as a hand to a glove. One of the most important points in flower arrangement is the relationship between container and blooms. This arrangement is a good example of complete harmony between container and flowers. A heavy container, whether the weight is actual or apparent because of strong color value, should not be used for delicate, fine, light-colored flowers. On the other hand, a vase of dainty, fragile appearance, such as fine glass, is not suitable for large flowers and coarse leaves. The texture of flowers into the container must also be considered. An exotic flower must be combined with a container of unusual design, whereas most of our garden flowers, bulbs, perennials, and annuals, are more at home in pottery or metal. The darker or fuller blooms are placed low in the arrangement. This is another of our rules. Its purpose is to ensure a center of interest and a stable base for the arrangement. The fuchsias are placed so that they will hang over the edge of the container and balance the height of the pale pink snapdragons. And last of all, the 3 sprays of purple stock are placed at the focal point of the arrangement. You can see how they intensify and dramatize the whole design. Here is another economy arrangement, this time a modified line design. The container is a rectangle of soft, pale green pottery, of the round pinpoint variety, quite heavy and not needing to be anchored. The foliage consists of the so-called lemon leaves, which you can obtain from any florist, and a branch of the lovely, shining camellia leaves, made more lovely and more shining by the application of olive oil. And to complete the design, several shorter branches. Foliage has been prepared by being immersed, leaves and all, in deep warm water for several hours. This can be done in a deep sink or bathtub, and seems to be the only way in which foliage can absorb enough water to make it last for any length of time. If you use foliage growing outdoors, such as rhododendron or andromeda pieces, you will probably have to actually wash it in soap and warm water. But be sure and rinse well, for any soap left on will dull the leaves. Place your branches carefully. A little natural curve can be intensified with a little gentle, very gentle manipulation between your thumb and middle finger. Now add your flower accent. Here, 3 large red carnations are used. Camellias would look as well, or a few azalea. As a rule, it is easier to arrange an uneven number of flowers or sprays, and here the 3 blossoms are most effective. The position of the holder is of particular importance in this type of arrangement. It should be well in one corner, toward the back, with the branches curving into the picture. The expanse of clear water gives an added interest. Flowers that grow in confusion in the wilderness and with precision in the garden can be turned with taste and thought in charming indoor arrangements.